Шановні колеги, наразі трансляцію запущено на YouTube, тому ми можемо починати.
Can I start the presentation?
A few minutes, wait few minutes.
Okay.
We would like to introduce you. Ми можемо починати.
Вітання, колеги, всі, хто мене зараз чує. Зараз почнеться лекція пана Мауро Замполіні. Він є президентом європейської секції UEMS-PRM, і він керівник відділення реабілітації в USL Umbria 2. І я хочу попередити вас, що у нас включена можливість інтерпретації, тобто ви можете вибрати вашу звукову доріжку внизу на панелі, ви побачите значок з символом планети, де ви можете обрати вашу мову, якою ви слухаєте, англійською чи українською. Пане Мауро, ви можете починати.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very pleased always to stay with us also at a distance. We started the collaboration since the 2015 for the project of implementation of physical and rehabilitation medicine European model in Ukraine. And so I've been in Ukraine several times, and I hope to be there quite soon, I hope. I'm very pleased also to be here today to speak about a very important aspect that is the assessment of disability, finalized to the work disability, the military disability, and so on. And I make a review about what's happening in Europe, and I will make some example coming from Italy, of course, because I am expert in Italy and not all over Europe. This is the presentation outline. So I will make a brief overview of the importance of disability assessment, explaining that this assessment determines eligibility for benefits, services, and support. And I will introduce the key concept of disability, define disability as a complex interaction of impairment, activity limitation, and participation restriction, and highlight the aim of the presentation to provide a comprehensive overview of disability assessment methods and challenges and best practice. To do that, I must start from the ICF conceptual framework. ICF is the International Classification of Functioning and Disability that has been released in 2001 from WHO. And this is the reference point from that period to now to conceptualize the concept of disability. So a very important aspect is that we are thinking about not disability, but functioning. This seems just a joke of word, but it's very important because we are interested to obtain the best functioning of the person, not just look at the disability. So the ICF speak about the consequences of disease, not about disease, because the disease is in acute diagnosis usually. And it's very important to speak about the consequences that are the base of disability. So in the ICF, we start from health condition. I take the pointer. From the health condition, that is disorder, disease, injury, trauma. And the health condition can be identified with the body function and structure of the body. So function should be the strength of the muscles, structure should be the bone, for example, and so on. And this is the base to lead to the activities during the daily life. So we have the functioning that lead to a series of activities, normal activities during the day. And from the activity, we can speak about the participation. So what is the interaction with the environment, which is the interaction not only to the stairs to be climbed, but also for the relationship for the person. And when we have the decrease of this functioning, when we have the decrease of body function and structure, we speak about impairment. When we speak about activities, we have the activity limitation, because we can have some activity limitation. And participation, we speak about restriction of participation. So you can see this double arrow. That means that if I have, for example, a stroke, I can have the problem of body function and structure, so impairment. I have the activity limitation. I have some participation restriction. But if I am not active, for example, so if I don't do the activity that I can do with my disability, and so I stay not active, of course, we go back and we have more and more impairment. So it's very important to speak about the role of the disease and the role of the environment. So here you can see the environmental factors and personal factors that can in some way regulate these pathways. Let me make an example. This is the example of impairment, activity limitation, and participation restriction. So example of impairment should be sleep function, emotional function, exercise tolerance, urinary function, sexual function, and so on. Activity limitation should be, for example, carrying out a daily routine, or handling stress and other psychological demands, changing basic body position. And going to the participation restriction, you can have the restriction of the work, so to have the remunerative employment, recreation, leisure, intimate relationship, basic interpersonal interaction. So this is an example of participation restriction. So coding all these function, you can define what is at the base of disability. This is very important, for example, for rehabilitation, because if I know what are the problem of the person and what are the reason of disability, I can finalize the rehabilitation individual project in the specific goals. So we can make an example. Okay, we do the rehabilitation. The aim of the rehabilitation is to increase the capacity of the person. So you make the exercise to improve the possibility of the person to recover as much as possible. The recovery should be not just physical, but is cognitive, emotional, behavioral, and we need the personalized project. One very important aspect is the personal factor. Why the personal factor? Because each person reacts to the disease and to the disability in a different way. So one point also in the assessment of disability is to taking account the personal factor. So speaking with the person is very important to understand the perspective of the person. But the real life is in the environment. It's not just in the hospital making the exercise. So the environment could be a barrier. I mean, for example, the straight example is the stair. If I have the wheelchair and to access to the building, there are the stairs, I cannot, of course, overcome the stairs, and this is a barrier. So my capacity to go in the building should be good if the environment don't have the stairs, for example. But if there are the stairs, is a barrier. So my performance should be very low compared with my possibility. Or the environment could be facilitator, because there are facilitators are not just the building facilitator, but also for example, the relationship with the person, with the family, with the friends, with the people that you have in contact. So the behavior of these people could be a barrier or facilitator. So when we speak about the assessment of disability, we have to take in account this. Not only what is the strength of the muscles, not only what is the condition of the impairment, but we ought to look at the real performance, taking account the personal factor and environment factors. So, starting to go deeply on the specific topic of this presentation, we ought to speak about the type of disability assessment methods, because there are a lot of type of disability assessment, and there are the old one and the new one. So what is the expert assessment? So to be expert in the assessment, you have to know the disability, of course. Unfortunately, sometimes in Italy, we have the specific commission where there are the doctors that are not very expert about disability. And so we can have the problem in this case. Okay, we ought to be expert about what the medical, occupational health, and labor market professional using their expertise to determine the work capability. So we ought to we need the medical assessment. We need the occupational therapist or physiotherapist assessment. We ought to look at what are the possibility to be back in the work according with your work capability. So this assessment can lack the consistency and the reliability, often due to the precise workplace demand or lack of occupational health assessor training. In Italy, there is a law that say to the company that they have in a mandatory way a percent of person that work in the company that are labeled as disabled people. So this is a way to force the recovery of the workplace for the people with disability. Of course, this is according with the role that they can play inside the company and so on. It's not easy to manage this. Consider involving labor market expert with explicit reporting requirement. So it's very important to meet the problem of disability, the level of disability, the capacity of the person, and what is the labor market, what is the demand of the labor market. What is the structured assessment? This assessment compares an individual's function capacities against the required functional profile for a specific job. So this is, of course, is very important. You have a person that can do something, cannot do other things. So the profile, the functional profile of the person. And in the other hand, we ought to match what is the functional profile for the specific job. For example, in the Dutch system, there is a database of 7,000 jobs with 28 functional domain, and this is to facilitate this topic. This offer empirically based assessment of the job an individual can perform. The weakness is they may ignore psychological factor and individual priorities, and it can be expensive to collect data and all the job requirement. Of course, this is a very important aspect because we ought to take in account what the person thinks, what are the needs of the person, the goal of the person, the project of life of the person. There is the procedural assessment. This use an interactive learning process to assess capability, often involving a vocational rehabilitation option. You know that the vocational rehabilitation is a bridge from the rehabilitation and social worker activity, and the vocational rehabilitation is a rehabilitation focused on the relearn or learn a new work according with the disability level. So the process is that disability classification is when other return to work effort have been unsuccessful. So this is a procedural assessment and based on the vocational rehabilitation. The functional capacity assessment assess the ability level for different activities, creating an ability profile. So this is used to assess the ability to carrying out daily activities, sometimes using the Bartel index. In the UK, they use a point-based system to determine limited capability for work using a set of functional activities. How to work, the individual's profile is then compared against a template such as job requirement and the ability to perform any form of work. So this is another way, is based on the assessment of activity, daily living, so the disability in general. And also in this case, you ought to match with the work that is needed, the job that is needed. Economic loss assessment, in this case, there is a system calculate income loss due to the disability. So the person that was used to work at one level and now with disability, of course, you have another other capacities, so you can decrease your income by comparing current earning with a notional earning if not disabled. So this way is the money that assess the capacity. The Barema method is the old method. A method is used in some country to evaluate the degree of incapacity, sometimes using a standardized list and assignment and percentage of each disability. Take into account the therapeutic constraint, progress in medical field, and the use of prosthetics. So this is quantitative methods that don't look to the person, but look to the impairment that is consequences of the disease. There is a database, European Physical and Mental Disability Rating Scale for medical purpose. And let me give some example of that. This is focused on the problem, for example, tetraplegia. So if you have a C2,
Значить, дивись, що можна зробити зараз? Це таке, можна... Є лінк, я зареєструвався, там якийсь ввів ім'я слухач вебінару. Ти можеш кинути цей лінк в чат, всі, хто зайдуть по цьому лінку, зайдуть по ідеї. Ну, це єдине, що можу зараз швидко зробити, зімпровізувати. Зайдуть і будуть називатися слухач вебінару.
language.
Можна написати щось типу.
Okay. So, yeah, this is the example. The example is complete tetraplegia depending on the level. So C2, C6 is 95 loss, 95% of loss. Below C6 is 85. The complete hemiplegia with aphasia 90% and without aphasia is 75%. And to each point of the percent is related to amount of money. So the loss is quantified with one person is, I can remember, is an amount of money that you can earn with your disability. This is an example of amputation. The total upper limb amputation is 65% and amputation of the arm 60% and amputation of the forearm 50%. So this is an example, but also in Italy we use this system, but now we have the new system that try to overcome this approach. That is an approach that don't take in account the person. What are the key components of disability assessments? There are medical evidence importance. We must assess, require medical evidence, including diagnosis, medical history, and test results. This included the treating doctor view and how the applicant is impaired, so is focused on impairment. And the challenge is the delay in obtaining medical certificates can hinder timely decision, because when we need the medical certification, sometimes there is a waiting list to obtain that. There is also the possibility to make a self-assessment. It's very important to capture the individual perception of their limitation, and is more common in assessment of daily life activities, care needs, and support. Now there are also the system that quantify very well the perception of the person about the outcome of the disease, that are PROM, a patient-related outcome measure, that usually are the questionnaire with the answer done from the patient, and that can quantify what is the disability from the view of the patient. The functional capacity is assesses an individual's ability to perform a specific task or activities. So the example of the activity assessment, for example, should be physical, standing, sitting, manual dexterity, mobility, making oneself understood. Mental should be learning, awareness of hazard, coping with the change, getting about and social engagement. The tools, of course, in this case, the functional capacity is captured from ICF, International Classification of Functioning Disability, handheld, provided a framework assessing individual capacity. The World Health Organization make a assessment schedule based on ICF that is called the WHO-DAS2, that is a tool based on ICF and is validated to be not just a classification of the problem related to the disability, but is for the assessment of the level of disability. In Italy now, starting from this year, from few days ago, we started 1 year of experimental activity on the assessment of disability based on that. The descriptor are the ability or disability described using a series of statements that represent a level of ability and disability. The scoring are point-based system can quantify functional restriction, such as, for example, UK Work Capability Assessment, WOGA, where descriptors are assigned with a point that are added together. The assessment interview are very important because are crucial for gathering information about an individual's ability and the limitation. For example, in the Netherlands, the insurance physician use various interview models such as the methodical assessment, multi-causal analysis, and disability assessment structure and interview. This interview include a discussion of functional limitation, medical history, work history, and personal factors. So this is the assessment based on the discussion with the patient about all the aspects of related to the individual perception of the patient. This is very important to assess in the right way the level of disability. Other factors to be considered should be social medical history, prognosis of work disability, and the feasibility of intervention to promote recovery. Of course, you can have the temporary disability, or your disability should be less during the years. So also this is very important because the disability is a not static factor, and hopefully the rehabilitation should be improved. In Italy, for example, there are temporary disability assessment. So in some cases, each year there is the reassessment of the situation if there is the possibility of the recovery of the patient. In some cases, you obtain the benefit of your disability for 1 year, and after 1 year, they say, okay, now you are back in good activity of daily life, so you don't need anymore the support for your disability because you are not disabled anymore. The effort made to seek a treatment and rehabilitation and the impact on therapeutic constraints. So what are the challenges and the inconsistency of that? There is variability and reliability. Expert assessment often show high variability and low reliability. So for example, making an example of Italy, before COVID, I have a discussion with a committee that was assessing a disability level to multiple sclerosis patient, saying that the patient don't need any support. And the patient with multiple sclerosis, of course, was without a specific impairment evident seeing the patient, but you know, in the multiple sclerosis, there is the fatigue that is a very important problem, because when you have the fatigue, even if you can move all the arm and limbs and so on, you cannot do anything, or a few things, or you can do things for a few time. And so in this case, I discuss with them and say, no, you should know what is multiple sclerosis. And the problem of multiple sclerosis is also this. Should be the lack of transparency. The assumed workplace required are often unclear, and assess do not always explicitly mention job requirement. So there is a generic assessment, Inconsistency in application. There is an inconsistent application and assessment due to the variation in client background and medical condition. And there is also the subjectivity. Assessment may be subjective with varying interpretation of guidelines and law. This is very important. For example, in Italy, there is a range of the assessment that is quite different from North Italy and South Italy. In the South Italy, there is easier to assess disability, to label with disability the patient. In the North Italy, much less. There is also the impact of fluctuation condition. The descriptor should emphasize the impact of fluctuating condition and the inability to complete tasks safely and repeatedly. And there could be difficulty with the process. A long procedure, complicated process, and difficult interview can cause applicant to withdraw. Of course, if the process is too complicated, at one point the candidate to the disability assessment can withdraw. Defining care and supervision, distinguish between care and supervision and different level of need. When I make the certificate for disability, I mention that, for example, in case of person that is not able to be independent, I say there is need of care and supervision for 24 hours each day. That means that it cannot stay alone, and this opens the way to the disability certification with an amount of money given for the caregiver. Of course, this is an assessment that usually I do me as the specialist of physical and rehabilitation medicine, but sometimes there are no experts, so this assessment should be not so reliable. Best practice and enhancement. So we need a standardization of assessment process that can improve reliability and consistency. We need training for medical assessor, including understanding of disability principle and the need to consider extenuating circumstances. We have to consider that ICF is still not well known across the specialties. There is a minority of medical specialists that know the ICF, and this is a problem. Should be the guidance for decision makers, providing good guidance for decision maker to ensure good quality of decision. So should be something like guidelines for that. Use the ICF, the use of ICF as a framework for assessing functional capacity can promote consistency. As I say, taking account that is not well known. Information and transparency, providing claimants with clear information and available benefit and how to claim them, and user-friendly online portal to assess data related to their assessment. But it's very important also to focus on abilities, shifting the focus from disability to abilities. So to disability to functioning, concentrating on vocational capacity and the specific job requirement. So in this case, we have to focus about the work capacity of the person. We need the clear communication, using clear and unstable language in the assessment process. We need the comprehensive assessment, assuring assessment are comprehensive, exploring all the area where the claimant indicate problem and gathering sufficient evidence to support all conclusions. Of course, we need also the evidence of that, because in some cases the claimant would in some way declare that is more disabled than it is really. So the challenge of the assessor, of the medical that assess disability, is also to understand this that there is some distortion of the assessment provided from the patient. And addressing contradiction in report, conflicting evidence must be fully addressed. So, making an example, I would like to speak about the Italian system. I gave to you, I sent to you several documents, so there you can see all the system in different area of Europe. But I can speak about the Italian system because it's the system that I know directly. So in Italy, we have one aspect that is called the civil invalidity, that is not related to work, it's just to your disability level that is due to the aging or injury or whatever. This assessment begins with submitting a medical certificate to the INPS, National Institute of Social Security Telematic System. So when I make outpatient clinics, part of the patient asks to me to certificate the level of disability, because this is the base to make the application to National Institute for Social Security. An accredited physician who detail the person pathologies and functional limitation must complete this initial certification. So this is what I do usually. And then there is a regional commission that decide about the level of disability. So I can describe the level of disability, but the final decision and the level of disability is assessed from the specific regional commission. Another aspect is the work capacity assessment. So the capacità lavorativa is the evaluation of work capacity in Italy follow a specific protocol. There is a first level of assessment that is conducted from the medical commission of at level of my level, that is the first level assessment, include a detailed medical examination and consider both particular job requirement and general work capacity. Yesterday in my outpatient clinics, I saw a patient that was used to carry furniture to the houses, and now I have a severe problem to a lumbar level with the herniation, and so he cannot do this because he cannot take the heavy things. So I declare that the capacity of work is changed, so he's not anymore able to move the heavy material. Then there is a second level of assessment that is performed by National Institute of Social Security, and there is medical commission. So also in this case, there is the review of first level findings and make a final determination about the pension benefit. A third thing is the work injury assessment. So this is related to the disability, temporary or permanent disability due to the work activity. So what happened, the injury happened during the working activity. This is another institute that is dedicated to that is different from the Institute for the Security Insurance. and it's a National Institute for Work problem. And so if you have the problem at this level, for example, the money that you can obtain are more than the basic work capacity assessment, because there is more benefit for the people that are injured consequently to the work activity. So what are the evaluation criteria? So in the Italian system, we use a percentage-based scale for assessing work capacity reduction. So there is 74 to 99% is partial invalidity. So there is, to this level, there is an amount of money that you can give to the patient. 100% total inability to work is more money. And you can have, if you have the complete loss of independence, you have 100% plus the support for the caregiver. So talking about the money, 100% of total inability correspond to 700 euros each month. For the support of caregiver, there is 550 euro each month. So if you have 100% and you obtain 200 euro each month.
Signor Мауро,
Yeah.
excuse me, un momento. Шановні колеги, всі, хто наразі знаходяться на Ютубі і не можуть чути переклад, будь ласка, ми скинули вам у чаті посилання на Zoom. Ви можете приєднатися до Zoom, і в Zoom ви вже будете чути переклад. Перепрошуємо за цю технічну незручність. Далі чекаємо вас і далі продовжуємо. Grazie, signora Mauro.
Okay, I can go on.
Yes, you can. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, there is also the assessment for the military personnel. That is another type of assessment. So one type of assessment is the disability due to the cause of the services. So if something happened during your military service, so it's causa di servizio, you make an evaluation disability. In this case, is assessed from military doctor. And in this case, we have to consider operational condition and specific military duties. So the circumstances that are at the base of the injury. And there is a military medical commission with a specialized evaluation board of military personnel. And sometimes there is the integration with the civil assessment system when necessary. So if the military commission don't have the specific type of knowledge or skills, can ask to the civil doctor to join to the medical commission. So now the Italian system is faced to several ongoing challenges. There is regional variation. Despite the national standard, significant regional differences exist in implementing and interpreting assessment criteria. In Italy, we have the autonomy, a lot of autonomy in the medical organization in each region. So we have 20 regions and we have 20 different services organization, medical services organization. There is a problem that evaluation time frame, the time required for completing assessment can vary significantly, leading to the delay of benefit provision. So if you have the patient that have the stroke, so with a severe stroke is not required sometime 1 month or 2 to obtain the final certification. So there is an integration of multiple systems coordinating different assessment body, local health authority, national institute of security, and the specialized commission. Sometimes there is no agreement, and there are complex procedure because there is discussion about the different level of assessment. But now there is a recent reform and development. There is a new law that started from July 24 that is based on is focused on the disabled people. And the final goal is to define the life project of disabled people, taking account the right of the disabled people. And so the focus is introducing telematic system for certificates of commission and process management, significantly modernize the assessment procedure. So the National Institute of Security has implemented the comprehensive digital platform that handles all the stage of evaluation process. The second point is the integration with European standard. Italy has been working to align its assessment method with a broader European framework, particularly the International Classification of Functioning, Disability and Health. So, as I said before, since the 1st January of 2025, in some region, including my region, we started to assess the disability using WHO DAS2, that, as I said, is the tools to assess the disability based on ICF. An interesting project is the definition and establishing the UE disability card. Is not yet completely active, but the idea is to have this process of to recognize you are right to have the disability card. So there is the assessment, the determination with the measurement tools, recognition that should be the final stage. So what are the benefits of disability card? Sorry, it's small slide, but if you have a general disability recognition, you should be registered as disabled person. For example, you can have the benefit about the payment of social security, of tax concession, adding cost of living benefit. So, for example, based on NGO, reasonable accommodation and education training, so you can have the benefit, benefit in the access to transport, access to culture, recreation, leisure, and sports. So you have a series of possible benefit having this disability card. So also in this case, we can, in the perspective, harmonize the Ukrainian system with the European system in order to obtain also this card. Hoping that in the near future, the Ukraine will be part of the European community. What are the model of disability based on that? The model is the focus is per individual, the person and their impairment. So the social is environmental, societal characteristic, and this is the right UN Commission of the right of a person, of the disabled person, and that is the interaction between person and the environment, that is the focus on that. The implication that the person that has a problem, society has the problem. So how the society could be adapted the things to make less barrier and facilitate the performance of the person. And the right focus on the problem arise from the encounter with the barriers. Solution, the person has the change through treatment or adaptation of to the circumstances. Society has not changed through the removal of barrier in society. Respect for the right of the person through non-discrimination and the reasonable adjustment. So the assessment, medical or individual capacity, social, environmental. So I assess the functioning and activity limitation and participation restriction. You have to look to the environment as addressing the barrier in the society, and social and environmental activity, and the approach to respect the right of the person of disabled people is holistic and multidisciplinary. So the final assessment should be holistic, saying that you have to take in account the personal perspective of the person, the environmental aspect. It also should be multidisciplinary, because there is not just one person that can assess that, but there are multiple professions. Another very important document is this document is Disability Assessment in European States, and synthesis report. So, of course, we cannot discuss this document because of the time constraint, but there you can find a lot of information on that. This is just to underline some information to address the evidence for the various aspects, for the medical evidence from treating doctor, self-assessment, face-to-face interview, which may also include the medical examination, and other. So this is an example also at level of the country. This is Malta, for example. This is BRM method that, of course, don't fit on this approach. And this is a blind registration in UK, and so on. So there are a lot of table, a lot of discussion about all the aspects of disability in Europe. Another important document is this, that is provided by the European Disability Forum. European Disability Forum is the federation of the majority of the association for people with disability. We are, as the UEMS-PRM section, we are working on the agreement with them, because it's very important to be consequent to what I say about the importance of the assessment and taking account the perspective of the patient. We ought to discuss with the organization of disabled people. And so in Malta, in this March, we should sign the agreement. So they make this report, and this is very interesting because underline the different approach across the Europe. So you see the medical approach, that is Ireland and Germany, especially, also in Latvia and Lithuania. The BRM model, so the percentage that is United Kingdom, France, Spain, Portugal, and in part in Italy. Functional approach is more related to the countries, Sweden, Poland, Czechia, Slovakia, and Romania, and so on. Holistic approach is in part introduced in Italy, in Estonia, and so on, and in part in Slovakia. Another aspect is the country where disability assessment includes self-assessment or and or face-to-face evaluation that are the very important things, the self-assessment and face-to-face evaluation. And these are the countries. So there are countries where this is not included, such as Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Germany, and Ireland. So in this way, we can have the comprehensive picture of what's happening in Europe. This is a website where there is a work rehabilitation questionnaire, self-reported or external assessment. There is also the Russian version inside. And this is also based on ICF. And all these questions are related with the field, with the topic of ICF. And the level of assessment is 0, no problem, to 10, complete problem. And of course, the assessment should be not just the day of the assessment, but the assessment is related to the 30 days before, during what happening during the past 30 days, because there are some disabilities that are cyclic. For example, the headache, you can, if the day of the assessment is without headache, the person is perfectly normal. But if the frequency of the headache is very high, so I don't know, once a week or 2 or 3 each week, of course, there is a lot of disability. The same for Parkinson's disease. If the person with Parkinson's disease take the tablets, can walk very well, but when the tablet effect, there is not any more in the body, the person can stop to walk. So this is and you can go to the website to go deeply on that. The last topic is military service assessment. That is the assessment to continue to do the military activity. And in the document that I send, there are the example of different countries in Europe. This is the NATO approach. The key component as physical fitness standard, psychological assessment protocol, occupational specialty requirement, and deployment capability assessment. So there are 3 conditions. One is red, do not deploy. So it's the severe condition. So in this group, the high-risk medical complication or mission failures, any condition requiring frequent medical follow-up more than every 3 months, use of the systemic steroid in the past 6 months, recent hospitalization of emergency department visits, condition likely to be exacerbated by deployment environment, inability to perform essential military tasks or wear protective equipment. Yellow, so is the deploy with caution, is moderate risk requirement, specialist review, stable condition but requiring regular medication, cases requiring evaluation by senior military physicians, conditions that may be affected by deployment but are currently well controlled, multiple minor conditions that could have a cumulative effect. The green one, so fit to deploy, is low risk of medical complication. This is stable for more than 12 months. No medication changes in the past 3 months. No requirement for frequent medical follow-up. Able to perform all military duties without restriction and good response to any requirement rescue medication. So this is it's a system not to assess the consequences of military activity, but to assess the fit to deploy person. So, giving to the conclusion, and then we can leave the time for the discussion, because of course there are a lot of things to discuss, but because the time constraint, we cannot discuss about everything. The conclusion is to recap of the key point, emphasize the importance of various assessment methods and challenges in disability assessment, the importance of ongoing improvement, and highlight the need of ongoing effort to enhance the quality, transparency, and accountability of disability assessment system, focusing in particularly to ICF approach and functioning. We can give also a final talk that the ultimate goal is to ensure fair and accurate assessment that lead to appropriate support and opportunity for individuals with disability. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I give the floor to the people that can ask to me what you want. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Окей, ми дочекаємось. Поки ми дочекаємось завтра, я хотіла б щиро подякувати професору Мауро Замполіні за таку чудову лекцію. Це дуже велика праця, яку він потратив дуже багато часу, і ми йому за це дуже вдячні. Це стало можливим завдяки тісним зв'язкам Федерації медичних професійних об'єднань України з UEMS. Професор Замполіні, він очолює секцію реабілітаційної медицини в UEMS. І ми щиро дякуємо UEMS за таку важливу підтримку нас на сьогоднішній час. Я хочу запитати організаторів, чи прийшли запитання, бо я їх не бачу. Жаль. Ну, тоді, якщо немає заперечень, ми прийшлемо, і якщо у пана професора буде час, ми прийшлемо почтою запитання, які виникли у наших слухачів, і якщо буде час у професора Мауро Замполіні, ми організуємо ще одну зустріч і більш детально заакцентуємо свою увагу на запитаннях, які виникли у наших слухачів. Я дуже вам вдячна, хочу ще раз висловити свою подяку за участь в нашому семінарі. Сьогодні це дуже важливе питання для нас, тому що ми проходимо реформу медично-соціальних комісій. І ще раз хочу вам подякувати і позичити всього найкращого. І всього найкращого в новому році. Ми зустрілись вже в новому 2025 році, який, сподіваємось, принесе нам мир, злагоду. І хочемо побажати Мауро Замполіні теж всього самого найкращого. І до нових зустрічей. Дуже вам вдячні.
Thank you very much. I appreciate very much this invitation, and also from my side, I wish you, all of you, a very, very good, very good 2025 that bring the peace and bring the prosperity, because all of us need that. And so my best wishes to you and to Ukraine and to all the friends there.
Всім нашим друзям там.
Дякуємо, до побачення.
Bye.
Bye.